G'day, folks. My name's Vaughan McVilly. I'm from the Mental Wheels Foundation, and I'm about to embark on a 1,700 kilometre, 17,000 metres of climbing ride from Sydney down to Hobart called The Ride Toward Resilience. I wanted to drop in a little video and just talk about the reasons why I'm doing it, and maybe just sort of fill in some of the gaps around why it's so important to me personally, but also why it should be important for everyone out there. Um, Mental health, depression, anxiety, and uh, suicide, and the suicide rate are ever on the increase in Australia and around the world. Ever since COVID, it seems that things have been getting harder and harder, and now with some harder financial times, sort of seem to be happening right across the board. Um, you're finding that the suicide rate continues to go up. We've had amazing awareness campaigns like Are You OK Day and Movember and all of those sorts of things, and it's brought mental health to the surface, and I think we're all very aware that mental health is an issue in Australia and around the world, and we need to be doing some more things in place to do that, to start to turn that around. Um, Antidepressants and drugs that are being prescribed in Australia specifically are out of control. It is one of the largest businesses in the country. 9% of all Australians are being prescribed antidepressants year on year. And the figures that we're getting through Macquarie University and a whole heap of studies around the world is realistically that number should be around 1.5 to 2%. And even that is a high number. So 9% is just out of this world. And so the work that mindspot.org.au, which is what we help to fund, and the work of Professor Nick Tidov and his team is critically important because some of the findings of what they've been doing so far are around non-pharmaceutical solutions for mental health issues, anxiety, depression, and suicidal thoughts. The Big Five is the main, or what is one of their latest findings about 5 things that you should be doing on a daily basis to help keep your mental health on track and navigate those harder times. I've done another video about the Big Five, which you can watch here somewhere. But today I really wanted to talk about my own journey through my own mental health and the reason why it's so important. And I think the best way to do that is actually to go back to my childhood and sort of work my way through that. I was a pretty lucky kid. I had a dad who was my hero. He was a 6 times Australian cycling champion. He was a bit of a larrikin. We got along extremely well. And then I had a mum, and I have a mum who's an absolute legend. And she was the shoulders holding up the family. Dad trained obviously very, very hard. She would pick up the pieces on the times when he lost, which is a little line out of a song I wrote after my dad passed away suddenly in a horse riding accident about sort of 25, 26 years ago now. That loss really, really hurt me. As I said, we were really close mates, as well as obviously being my father. And so I had someone to look up to, and then all of a sudden I didn't have anyone to look up to. To be honest, I kept going at 1,000,000 miles an hour, trying to, I guess, prove myself, not only to my family and friends, but obviously to the guy upstairs, to my dad, to try and make him proud. I worked ridiculously hard for a long, long, long time. And I scaled both corporate and the business world. I was always super eager to learn. But for whatever reason, I experienced a lot of loss. I lost quite a few friends to suicide in my 20s and 30s. And it drove an arrogance and ego about me that, it took me a long time to come to terms with. I hated suicide. I thought it was the easy way out. I thought that, that people were weak if they went down that track. Move forward to in my early 40s, I started a business in the name of my father, McVilly Velo Enterprises, down in Tasmania. I had this grand plan to start a tourism business and a bicycle community business in Hobart. We had heli biking, the first people in Australia to be able to offer heli biking. And we had these grand plans to have this very multifaceted bike business running out of Hobart. Unfortunately for me, that business went down the tube. I picked fights with the local government, the Tasmanian government down there. I didn't want to pony up the amounts of cash and money that they were demanding that I pay them. And of course, they suddenly started to put up roadblocks left, right, and centre, and I very quickly started running out of money that I had lent from my friends, my family, and of course my gorgeous partner, Sammy. It put so much pressure onto me and my family, and it actually caused me and Sam to break up. I made poor decisions in all parts of my life. I was drinking too heavily, and I really went off the deep end. So much so that one fateful night, after probably working, I think my 14th or 15th day straight from 5 a.m. in the morning, when I'd open up our little bike cafe business, I walked up to the top of our family property in Leslie Vale down in Tassie. It was in August, so it was Tassie cold. It was misty. It was really, really freezing cold. I'd gone into the shed and I'd grabbed an old rock climbing rope that I had in the back of the shed. It was probably 20 years old. And I walked up to a tree on top of our property, right next to where my dad is buried. I tied myself a noose. I used a bit of the good old Google and YouTube to work out the best way to do it. The tree and the branch that I'd chosen was over a bit of a big long ledge, so it was going to be perfect for me to get the job done. What I didn't realise is the rock climbing rope was so old. It was a little bit brittle, and the elasticity didn't necessarily snap in half, or it didn't snap in half. It just sort of broke and stretched extremely long way. It fixated me enough to knock me out, and I'm not really sure how long, but I soon woke up with sort of, blinking, looking up at a dark, dark sky and drizzle and rain, and pretty much all soaking through and shivering. It was a failed suicide attempt. It's every time I think about it, I feel ashamed, and I feel that I very, very nearly let everyone down in the worst possible way. I picked myself up and I pulled the rope off the tree and I marched back down the hill in our property. It was probably a 4 or 5 minute walk from our actual house, the family home. I went into the shed. I cut off the end of where it broke. I had a hoodie on. I'd shoved the end of that rope in my hoodie. I don't know why, but I wanted to keep it to remind myself at the time. But straight away, I was extremely. I was calling myself a fat bastard. I was calling myself useless because I was unable to get the job done. And it was yet another thing I'd failed at. My business had failed. My relationship had failed. And now I couldn't even get, what I thought would be an easy fix done. I went down, I took all my clothes off and chucked them in the dryer, jumped into bed slept for a few hours, got up in the morning and went straight back into the cafe. I'd kept working. But it was that moment when I realized that I was a bit fucked, and I needed to get some urgent help. And um, it didn't happen straight away. It was really, really hard to find the help, and it was really, really hard to work out a way to navigate myself from that point and move forward. Um, with support, love, and kindness around me. My mum was obviously there. I didn't want to worry her about it. The immediate people around me, I didn't want to tell. I hid it all. And if anything, I became even more. I was a little bit like, I was laughing and joking on the outside and just screaming on the inside. And again, it really affects me just now talking about it because it was not a nice place to be. Saw a GP. They said I'd need to go and see a psychologist. Went and saw a psychologist, talked to them for a bit. They didn't really work out. Went and saw another one and finally got onto a good one who also put me on to MindSpot. Mindspot.org.au. And so that was my first ever sort of look at what online mental health help looked like. And it changed my view on a lot of things about mental health and suicide, and specifically that I ended up there like that. Like 2 or 3 days before I walked up that hill with that rope in my hand, things were really tough and really hard, and I was really struggling, and I didn't know, I couldn't work out a way out, but suicide still was definitely not an option. It seemed like within 24 hours, I was suddenly, fuck, this is the best way to go forward. I'll go kill myself. And suddenly it made sense to me. It made sense to me that why people ended up in that position and why people end up in thinking that there is no other easy way out. And so from there, I started doing more and more work in the mental health space. I met Gareth and Pete from the Mental Wheels Foundation when I moved back to Sydney, only sort of 6 to 8 months after my suicide attempt. I met Gareth in a very unique way. And in that, like, it was a business call. I was doing sales, and we realized we'd known each other from a previous life and got talking about what we're doing now. And I immediately got involved with the Mental Wheels Foundation, and then got introduced to Professor Nick Titov and Macquarie University, MQ Health, and of course the team at MindSpot. And that's 4 years ago now. We've continued to try and raise money for them. First off, it was just for the research because, I don't mind saying this, I'm pretty fucking over awareness campaigns. I don't think that they do too much for, a reduction in suicide attempts and the suicide rate. I think they've done a fantastic job making everyone aware that mental health is an issue, and asking your mates if they're okay is a good idea. But what do you do after that, and what is the advice you get, and where do you get that advice, and how do you point people in the right direction is what needs to happen. And to do that, we need to have done the research that's going to point people with actual activities and actions that they can do on a daily basis that can help them navigate through the fucking hard times and when we get thrown curveballs, because that's life. That is what's going to happen. We go through peaks and troughs, throughout our lives. Sometimes a few times in one day. Sometimes we have a whole good week and then we have a shit week. Sometimes we have a good year. Sometimes we have a shit year. It seems like the world's throwing up more curveballs at us at the moment, at everybody, and that excuse me, that we're constantly being challenged and tested. And we need these services and this ability and this knowledge to be able to help navigate our way through it. And that's what mindspot.org.au do. And then that's why we built the map, the My Amazing Pathway app, so that people who are struggling can have something in their hand, a handheld device, an app on their phone that can give them, direction and guidance and little pokes and not social media and fucking bullshit and like a fucking hoodie that says the person behind me is okay. All of that stuff is fucking crap, right? What you want and what you need is, little reminders of what you need to do. Getting up and having the right amount of sleep, social interactions, like those types of things, and how you fit them into your life and schedule those into your life and have goals and have plans and have something that's constantly reminding you. So we went and built the MAP app, the My Amazing Pathway app. And so that's why I'm riding from Sydney down to Hobart. I want to raise money to continue to help mindspot.org.au and Macquarie University do the research and develop the programs, and then continue to be able to share those programs and share all of these tips on a handheld app that's free to communities that can help people manage their mental health. So I'm trying to raise 100 grand, and I need your fucking help because I know it's hard times for everyone, but what it seems at the moment is everyone seems to be able to. We seem to be able to raise funds for things that aren't having huge impact and effect. When you look at what mindspot.org.au have done in the last 12 months, over 65,000 lives have been saved. We need to raise money for these guys and these programs that will have effect at the coalface and really help people navigate their mental health, their anxiety, their depression, and their suicidal thoughts, and make a happier, brighter community. So I hope that gives a little bit more of an insight to why I'm doing it and who I am. I will say one last thing about it. This is a scary thing to do because, even though, I feel that being vulnerable and talking about it is the right thing to do, I still feel and I still actually see on a weekly basis where, your ability to be employed, nervous laughs, your ability to, be trusted to get shit done, um, is really jeopardized when people find out that you've gone to a dark place or and had suicidal thoughts or attempted suicide. So that's a daunting thing for me to talk about, but I think it's the right thing because I think it's happening more and more and more, and people are just not telling anyone about it and trying to get on with it. And when what we actually need to be doing is making sure that they can get access to the help that they need. So please support the ride toward resilience. I'm going to try and get it as many workshops in down the coast of Australia and down to Hobart, and share the MAP app and share mindspot.org with as many humans as I possibly can all the way down, and hopefully have enough funding to then actually spread that all across Australia and help out hundreds of thousands of Aussies avoid suicidal thoughts and making that awful decision. Yow!